What an unbelievable assembly of historians and musicians we have here this afternoon for the Louisiana Music and Heritage Experience. Our goal today is to make an impression on you about the type of programming that we can engage in when we get built as a museum. Sonny Schneider, our producer, has worked very, very hard, taking the theme of the blues that we have this year and coming up with the Harmonica Symposium that's going to drill down deep on the history. Dave Cunian, our moderator, and our director, has been working in partnership with him. I want to thank our sponsors. This was paid for by the Prima Foundation and Moses Engineering. So thank you very much to them for putting up the money for this to happen. Please, everybody, enjoy. David?
Thank you for coming. Welcome to the second annual New Orleans Jazz Museum and Louisiana Music and Heritage Experience Symposia. Today is the first symposium. There are those of you who took Latin and know exactly what I'm talking about. Let me introduce you to all the folks around here because, we're going to be spending 90 minutes together and you might as well get to know them. On piano, Mr. Michael Lemler. On guitar, Mr. John Foll. On drums, Mr. Herlin Riley. On bass, the band leader and bassist and man extraordinaire, Mr. George Porter Jr. And our panel of scholars, the great harmonica player, Mr. Johnny Sansone. The great harmonica musician and former park ranger, Mr. Bruce Sunpie Barnes. Ben Sandmill, writer, folklorist, and man about town. Bob Santelli, journalist, writer of the Big Book of the Blues, original curator of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and the Grammy Museum, and current curator of the Louisiana Music and Heritage Experience. Yeah. And the man in the middle there, no explanation needed, Mr. Bobby Rush. Yeah. So what we're going to talk about today is blues harmonica players in Louisiana. We're going to focus on some of the great ones because many of the great ones have come from here. Slim Harpo, Little Walter, Lazy Lester, and of course, Mr. Bobby Rush. You can applaud for him again. It's okay. So I will remind you if you would please turn your phones off. And give me a minute to do that. And I just kind of want to start off talking to y'all, really, what is the importance of the harmonica in blues music? We were talking the other day. Sunpai, you had some ideas about it.
Well, it's the voice. And when you talk about having something to say around blues music, other than the human voice, harmonica is the one that could bend notes, give emotional intelligence about how I feel, So that's it. And these are instruments that were, originally coming in here and, there was a little mouth organ or whatever, and it was meant to have the little monkey and some peanuts on your shoulder, but, and that's what people were doing with them in Europe. And, Matthew Horner, the guy who invented them, was also making clocks and other things like that, but he took these concepts and stuff like that, but that he shipped them out, and because of the German population, in Louisiana, he sent them here to see what they would do. They were novelty instrument, and people, and they came with no instruction. That was very important. They didn't have the little thing in there that you normally have now, with some instructions on what to do with it. So it wasn't. It was. I want a drink of water, mama. And that was important, and so people found ways to do that, and they still use those methodologies that were like first being pushed for that thing to come. But the harmonica is everything. It's small, portable, You could buy one for a nickel. I still have some of my dad's that he bought in 1928 for 25 cents, and got a whole box of them. But that was something important.
And there was something about, y'all were talking the other day about how it's kind of easy for the community, that it was a community music and a community instrument because of its kind of ease of access. Anyone, Johnny, were you saying that the other day? That kind of.
Yeah, well, everybody's grandfather had one. So, yeah, and then I'm very surprised with how many people say, "Oh, my uncle used to play, or my grandfather, and he left me one, and I play now." And so, these things get handed down. Maybe your grandfather didn't actually know how to play, but he had one, and then you try to sound like him. What I could add to what we were just talking about of why the instrument is important in the blues, the actual tonal quality of what happens. One thing I was fascinated with was the great slide guitar player, Duane Allman. When they asked Duane Allman, who do you listen to what slide players? Well, of course, we listened to Elmore James and all these guys. But he said, I listen to harmonica players. And that was one of the things so of course, that would have been Little Walter because he was the most innovative with that style. And that idea is the phrasing of the bending and the holding of the notes. The instrument wasn't designed to do this. They didn't plan on any of the stuff that happened. All this happened from people just fooling with it till they found their spot with it. And there's so many different ways to give examples of some kind of rhythms that would make people happy. And let's just say like a little jump, like. Just something really easy, like a train sound like that. But I mean, if you're on the back porch and you don't have any kind of string instruments or anything, you could speak with this. Now, what I was talking about with the bending of the notes, this instrument wasn't supposed to do this. This is one note being drawn and playing three notes out of one hole. And I'm going to bring it up real slowly so you can hear the bends happening. This is what you would do with a slide guitar when you're pulling it up and down on the strings. Or when you're bending a string, you're pushing the string up or pulling it down to change the tone of the note, change the note. But you can't sustain that. You have to have some kind of a amplified situation. But on the harmonica, you can do that. So you can hold that note as long as you want. I'm going to give you an example. That's three notes. The first note was bent from the bottom to the top. So this would make it sound of what your voice would sound like if you were singing the blues like Bruce just did. And those notes are being bent up and down. But we can hold those notes. That's one of the important things about why this instrument has so much feeling to it.
Okay. Is there a certain thing that typifies or is an example of the Louisiana harmonica style? Bobby, I remember I interviewed you at one point, and you were talking about how there's a certain thing that Louisiana has for harmonica players that other places don't.
Well, they have the rhythm. I guess you would call it rhythm because it's a little different from any other area that I know of. My dad was from Louisiana. He was a harmonica player. I got stuck and hooked on the harmonica player because as a kid, we had a railroad track not too far from our house. The train used to come by. And on the weekend, we would go rabbit hunting. We had a hound dog. And my grandfather had a T-Model Ford. My grandfather told me, said, just imagine my dog running the track and the trains come in the opposite direction. The train decided to go back the other way. The T-Model Ford was going the same way. He said, "What you think? Who you think will win the race?" I said, "Probably my hound dog." And that's where it started from. It started like that. Train. T-Model Ford. Hound dog. Oh. So they had a race. The train said. Oh. My granddaddy said, "Now, play me a gospel song," because my daddy was a preacher. I said, that's what it started from.
That's Louisiana in a nutshell.
My children.
That's what I'm talking about. Yeah. Yeah.
Hear the sunshine. Yeah, well, cheer up, my brother. Yeah. Yeah. By and by. Yeah. Yeah.
That's what it
for that.
started.
Yeah.
That's Louisiana.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
Rhythmatics.
You won't hear this no more, but someone from Louisiana has done that kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah. I want to talk now. We're talking about a few of the famous harmonica players. Lazy Lester. Now, a bunch of y'all knew Lazy Lester. I would say, Ben, we haven't heard from you. You knew Lazy Lester, right?
I met him. I did.
You didn't?
I met him, but I did not know
Okay.
him.
Those of you who knew Lazy Lester, what was he like? What was his personality like? What was his music like?
You don't want to hear from me.
Go ahead. We all have our business. Tell the truth.
No, I can't tell the truth about Lazy Lester. No, he was a great harmonica player, great guitar player, and a crazy man at that. Alike.
How so?
Just crazy. He thought he was the best in everything he did. He was good, but he wasn't the best.
Okay.
But if you told him you wasn't, you had to fight. You know, if you had to fight. And he would fight you and bite you. Yeah, Lester.
Yeah,
No, he's a great guy. He's a great guy. But his style was kind of like a trade off from Little Walter, Big Walter. So I guess we all get our sound from someplace, but I think he analyzed Little Walter.
Yeah, and a lot of country.
Yeah. Johnny.
Yeah, I think his main thing was he loved country music so much, and he would sing the old Hank Williams songs, and he wrote so many great songs. But when you got together with him, he would take the guitar away from the guitar player and just want to play these country songs.
Yeah.
And he never really put it together, except where the guy grew up, there was a lot of country music, and a lot of these guys coming up, the whole idea was we didn't have all the influences that we have today. You had like the radio and the jukebox, and whatever those places were, whatever was on there, that's what you were going to end up being influenced by. So that's where Lester got a lot of his ideas from. But he also was a really, really funny guy, so he would write all these ridiculously funny songs. I'm going to sing one for you. When I go up there, I'll do it, not here. But that was the beauty of his songwriting, and so many people recorded his songs because he was somewhere in between a whole bunch of styles. There's a lot of that going on now, but back then, you wrote on one side or the other. Like Excello Records was very helpful because where they made these records were, in Crowley, in the bayous, and a lot of the music of Louisiana crept into these songs. So he was taking Texas sound, he was taking swamp pop sound, R&B, gospel, all these things just kind of worked into the guy. And then he would do crazy shit like play. We were going over some of this stuff while we were trying to do this thing, and I said, you know, Lester used to play drums. He was a great drummer, but he didn't use drums. He didn't use sticks. He rolled up 2 newspapers, and he would hit the newspapers. And Harlan said something like, yeah, it sounded like he was hitting a book or something. And I said, yeah, he played a phone book.
It was a saddle, too.
He put a phone book on his lap, and he would hit it with the... So the guy, you know, and I said, well, they didn't have any sticks. I said, well, he didn't have any. So he had to figure something out. And then, you know, another one of the jokes I inducted Lester into the Blues Hall of Fame in Memphis. And I had to come up with a speech of some kind. So I was explaining to everybody there that there was some kid in a basement in somewhere in Sweden or somewhere, trying to learn it. What is it that makes this sound? Having no idea that it was the most basic thing that you could possibly have. We have to figure out, well, there must be some kind of special box that does this or something, because it just sounds so cool. It was just Lester just going, let me see, let me try this, and hit it, you know, and it sounded good. I'm giving you this because this is what this man was. He didn't care about anything. Because I don't care if it sounds good. That's where he got his name from. They call me lazy, but goodness knows I'm only tired.
Well, yeah. I think he was a little bit of a genius myself. We all have various opinions, and we wouldn't be talking about him unless he really had something. So, you know, I hung out with Lester a lot and learned a lot about music from him, and definitely those sessions. And it wasn't just him; it was him and his running partner, Clarence Jockey Etienne, who was a drummer, and that was the Excello sound. I played with Jockey and Lester a lot, and traveled with him. Now, I would do shows with Lester in Europe, and they would contract me to come over a few days earlier to hang out with Lester so he could, you know, have his fun, have a few beers and things, and everything was cool. But in terms of the music, he was like he loved to fish, and he was like an eel. So if you listen to his style of music, he's playing like, I'm gonna say this, and you know, I'm going out on my own limb because like Little Walter and like Mr. Bobby Rush was saying, you know, he had some change up. He wasn't throwing fastballs the whole time. And really nobody does that in a life experience. You have to have some change up pitches. So he had a lot of sliders when it came to that, and then how he would turn a note around or chord and play in first position or a different position. So, and those rhythms that they used, they invented a lot of stuff, playing on saddles, playing on boxes that they tuned, playing on phone books, and using, you know, the coconut shells and newspapers and all sorts of stuff. But I think some of that fat stuff that they played was actually played on the saddle of a Shetland pony that you would use. But they used all that in the studio.
Go to the barn and get.
And there was an engineer also who wanted that. You know, Miller wanted a lot of stuff. J.D. Miller realized that he had those cats, and he also wanted who he could pick up the phone and call and get to come and do the session that day in 1 hour.
Right.
And that was Lester. He was on call and ready to go. And so that's why he played so many sessions, and he played a lot of stuff for other people that they got the credit for him for being the person playing, but it was actually Lester. So he had some styles, but he loved some country music. And the thing to realize about country music is country music really didn't have a ethnicity in the way that people think about it now. It was just music from folks in the country, and that's what it was. But commercialization drives all sorts of points that we don't necessarily live by.
Right, the commercialization works in certain ways
right.
that music does not. So, speaking of the music, Jai, you're going to do a little. You want to get up and do a Lazy Lester song?
Yes, I do. And this particular song is one that I thought would be best because it really explains Lester pretty good. This is a song about going to prison.
Wait, that's not funny.
All right. Are we ready? Yes, sir. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3.
He didn't listen to what I said. He was back before he left. If you see something good laying around, it's best that you leave it be. Cause if you pick it up, they're gonna get you every time, and you wind up in here with me. I know that you think I'm crazy, but I do know that it's true. And if you don't believe me, what I say, well, the same thing can happen to you.
Johnny Sandstone, y'all. The next person we're going to talk about is the great James Moore, a.k.a. Slim Harpo. Slim Harpo came out of Port Allen across the river from Baton Rouge, playing in the 50s, 60s. And I want to talk about, and Ben, I want you to speak to, what was this? Baton Rouge had a blues scene.
Baton Rouge had a huge blues scene, actually still does. The best known musician to come out of Baton Rouge was Buddy Guy, who started, I guess, in the late 50s. But there was Slim Harpo, there was Lightning Slim that Lazy Lester played on all his records, or most of them. And then in a little factoid, Lazy Lester had a common law marriage with Ernie Cato's mother. And so Cato was very much...
It's a small world.
Cato was very involved with the Baton Rouge blues scene, even though he did very few straight blues records per se. And a lot of the Baton Rouge blues artists recorded in Crowley, Louisiana, which is about 50 miles, well, no, it's past Lafayette, about 100 miles west. But the records were issued on a label called Excello out of Nashville, and people referred to Slim Harpo's style as the Excello sound, which created the false impression that the records were recorded in Nashville by Nashville musicians, but they were actually recorded in Crowley. And if I can veer off on a little obscure factoid here, who's the fourth musician? Is Lazy Lester, Little Walter, Bobby Rush, and fourth person?
Slim Harpo.
Slim Harpo. Yeah. Well, two of the harmonica players we're talking about, North Louisiana does not get enough credit. So
sure.
Bobby Rush from North Louisiana and Little Walter from North Louisiana. So just to correct the misimpression that it all happens along I-10, let's give a big nod to the parts of Louisiana that are north of the Boudin Curtain, as they say.
The best part.
Right, there you go. And also, well, Slim Harpo started out playing for a black audience. He played the Apollo Theater in '61. Cato was on that show. I think Frogman Henry was on that show. A guy named Dee Clark, who had a big hit called Raindrops, was on that show. And then later, he had hits in the white market. I grew up in Cincinnati, and Baby Scratch My Back, which is really a deep Southern blues song, made it into the top 20 in Cincinnati. It's a big moment for me in learning about music. I still have the 45. And then his music was covered by people such as the Rolling Stones. Bobby and I were talking earlier, said that kind of success, he was pushed away from the black audience to the white audience. But, and Slim Harpo, those would be the main things, but a great musician, a great singer, great songwriter, and They were, Johnny, you were talking about those records. They didn't have drums. They had boxes. And one thing they would do at the end of a beat, can you hold my coffee 1 second, please? At the end of the song, it had a little beat. It would go. You remember that? At the end of, it's just a little, it sounded like it was on wood blocks. If you go on YouTube and listen to Baby Scratch My Back, in the latter part of the song, it's this cool little thing. And as a drummer who's played with some harmonica players, I shamelessly stole that, and I use it to this day.
All right. You guys have been talking about Excello. Bob, I wanted to ask you the significance of kind of the record labels and the independent record labels and getting this music, which is very localized, out to a national audience. How did that work?
Yeah. Well, if you were fortunate enough to have a label in your region, of course, that label had a great connection with the players, and they would be able to record, like in Crowley, you're right there with a lot of these great musicians. But one of the things that the regional labels lacked was distribution. The whole thing about cutting a record, especially in the 50s and early 60s, was you had to be able to get your records to record stores and also to disc jockeys. And the way to do that was, well, there's a lot of ways to do that. Payola was one of the ways to do that. But the other way, the most important way, was to make sure that you were affiliated with rack jobbers and other people in the industry that would allow a record from Crowley, Louisiana, to be played in Portland, Oregon, right? I mean, that's where you were able to make your name. And so Excello, you know, I grew up in New Jersey and New York, and as a kid, I never heard that. The only way I heard Slim Harpo was, I'm a King Bee, I bought the first Rolling Stones record. And then I looked and said, wow, he's Slim Harpo, he's not in that band, who is he? And we worked our way back. But that was always an issue. And it's why Elvis Presley leaves Sun and goes to RCA, of course. It was all about really the distribution.
Getting your stuff out there. So
I wanted to add one point about Crowley and J.D. Miller. He was an excellent producer. He had a real feel for producing music by black artists, but he was a horrible racist. At the same time, Baby Scratch My Back was a big hit. He had these racist Klan records like N-word, Hating Me, and all this stuff. Very contradictory figure. And those records are still popular today. They've been re-embraced by this right-wing skinhead movement called hatecore music. So it's a bad legacy, and most of the people who recorded for him have terrible things to say about him.
Yeah, I was one of the few guys who wanted to record for that company when Slim Harpo was doing these things. So I said to Slim Harpo, I said, I'm going to record at Chess Records. He said, no, I'll go down to Wonderful Records, record. So I went to Wonderful Records, and some of these guys, white guys, was there. Said, Bobby Rush, we don't want no blues, especially a race record. Right. I said, I'm not here to record a race record. So what you in record? I said, I got this song. They said, what is it? I said, you get the hook and I get the pole, babe. You get the hook and I get the pole. We go down the crawdad hole. And when I said, oh yeah, let's record him. When I got inside of the studio, I said, Daddy told me on the dying bed. They said, oh God, that ain't what we thought you were gonna sing. Too late. It was too late then. I'd record the record. I slicked the circles, you know. But Slim Harpo was the reason why I did that, you know.
Yeah.
I want to say, for those, my honor.
Yeah.
You can learn all about this in the exhibit that David and I did downstairs. But the whole point of the exhibit is to really acknowledge not only the diversity of Louisiana blues and harp players, not just the harp players, just the blues men and women. This state has an incredible diversity, geographically speaking, stylistically speaking, and downstairs in that exhibit. And the reason for this is to acknowledge it, to celebrate it, and also for you people to pass it on. You know, let younger people know who Slim Harpo was, who Lazy Lester is. That's the whole point of doing these things.
Yeah.
I wanted to add something about when you're talking about Slim Harpo. It was a little different in other ways. He played guitar and he played on the rack, so that was something different. There's only a couple guys that are good at that. It was Jimmy Reed had some big hits at the same time. And that changes a lot of style, because now you're playing two instruments at the same time. And he was great at it. So he really changed a lot of stuff. And he played a lot of octave stuff, which was kind of like a accordion sounding. And that separated him from a lot of other stuff. Not obviously, he was a very great songwriter and performer. I never got to see him. I know Bobby could tell that story, but he, changed everything for Louisiana Blues. He was probably the biggest thing we had.
Yeah.
Well, the fact that it was accordion style, where the accordion is a huge, I want to say only in Louisiana, but there's got to be some other place where the accordion is such a huge blues instrument, and so influential to everybody. So.
And I'll be giving an example of the accordion style of his playing when I go back.
Well, speaking of that, let's hear some music. Bruce, you're going to go first with King Bee.
Well, I'm a king bee. Let's hit it from the top. Well, I'm a king bee, buzzing round your hive. Well, I'm a king bee, buzzing round your hive. I can do good for you, baby. Let me come inside. I'm young and able to buzz all night long. I'm young and able to buzz all night long. Yeah, we can make plenty honey, baby, all night long. Come on, buzz a while. Well, I'm a king bee, yeah. Won't you be my queen? Yeah, I'm a king bee, baby. Want you to be my queen. Yeah, we can make plenty honey, baby, the world have never seen. Yeah, I can be buzzing all night long. Yeah, I can't be, baby, buzzing all night long. Yeah, I can buzz better, baby, when your man is not at home.
Bruce Sunpie Bar, Joe. Johnny, can you explain the significance of Rain in My Heart?
The song was one of the biggest hits that Louisiana ever had on the jukebox scene. You have to remember that we didn't have all the kind of stuff we got today. Like I said, you either heard it on the radio or you heard it on the jukebox, or you bought the record, which a lot of people never got a chance to do. And that's how you found it. You were listening, you were sitting in a restaurant or coffee shop or a bar or whatever, and the song would come on the jukebox, and you went over to check and see who it was, because this is something that you really dug, or something you didn't really understand or never heard it before. So, well, I'm gonna have to go buy that record because this is cool. And now you learn about this person, and then these are how these things happen, and you get drawn into it. I have a lot of friends that call this Louisiana state song because it was so important to the people of South Louisiana. It's a mixture of the swamp pop sound and the blues sound put together. And he's playing octave notes through most of it, so it sounds kind of accordion sounding. A lot of these, the structure of the song was based on a 1-5 progression, which is a lot of Cajun music is based on that. So this is definitely the perfect example of Louisiana blues.
Sounds like it's got everything from Louisiana in it right there, you know.
And crawfish meat. I want to add, we could not have possibly come together with a better band. This band is... When they told me who was going to be here, all I did was go, "Are you kidding?" Goes like this.
Raining in my heart, babe, since we've been apart. I know I did you wrong. Baby, please come back home. You know you got me crying. I'm about to lose my mind. Please don't let me cry in vain. Try my love just once again. Well, darling, I need your love. And baby, I think you know just why. And if you would just come back home, well, there'd be no need for no more crying. Thank you.
Johnny Sansone, y'all. Bobby Rush. Before we go on to Little Walter, did you say you knew Slim Harpo and had a story to tell about him?
Harpo was one of the greatest harp players of all times. Not only was a harper, he would deliver well. Talking about scratch my back. I asked him one time why he liked these, because he hadn't had a bath in about 2 weeks. He says his back was itching. I said, join the club. But he was so clever about the things he did, about the way he did them, and the phrases, you know. And he kind of talk out his nose like Jimmy Reed. Yeah, bang, 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 you know. You know, I didn't know what that mean. Let him alone or dig in, you know. But that's the way he talked, you know. That's the way he talked, you know. That's the way he talked. I don't know. But speaking about harp, I don't know which time for me to do this now. But I think that the settings are right for me to tell you that Louisiana was a place where a lot of time it wasn't as many musicians around at the time when I come up. Fast Domino, I'm talking about back in the day. We had to do things by ourselves. And my first big job, I'm gonna stand up and do this. My first big job wasn't a harmonica. I had a harmonica in my hand like this, but I was ham-boning. That's what I was doing. And Harpo was that with his guitar, with dick, 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 dick. That's what we were doing. You know, up in all around the country. With the at that time they called them fall term festivals. You know, like on Rabbit Foot. You know, anybody know what I'm talking about? Right. Rabbit Foot. You only do it from September to December.
Right.
And when people have cotton, like a sugar cane or whatever. That's what it was. That's what it was, harvest. That's what we did. And if I may show what I was doing and people around me like was doing, with this. Have you ever been mistreated by someone you shouldn't have loved? Have you ever been mistreated by someone you really love? Out of all of me and my woman could have left me for. She left me for the garbage man. No matter how bad she treated me, still can't get it out of my mind. No matter how bad you treated me, still can't get it out of my mind. Every time I see a garbage can, I think about her and the garbage man all the time. If I ever get my woman to come back home, I'm gonna buy myself a garbage truck. If I ever get my woman to come back home, I'm gonna buy myself a garbage truck. When my garbage can't get full, I'm talking about real full, I'm gonna take it and dump that stuff way out in the woods.
Bobby Ross.
That's the Louisiana Blues for you.
Well, we're going to hear one more from you later, but I want to talk a little bit about Little Walter, who is regarded as one or two of the greatest harmonica players. Most people think of him as being from Chicago, but he came out of Marksville.
That's right.
What has it made Little Walter so great?
Well,
Yeah, John.
I gotta say, all you have to do is listen to the records, because his incredible feel, his tone, the way he changed everything on the instrument. All these guys that you've been listening to, all the stuff we've been telling you about was before the amplified sound. And Walter may not have been the first guy to do this, but he was the guy to perfect it. And he was able to use it And that, along with Chess Studios and the people that worked there, that allowed him to just do whatever it was that he wanted to do. Now you have to understand, back then we didn't have any kind of fancy stuff. The stuff that we have now, what I have up there that I was going to show you about, Little Walter, this is a PA system from the 50s, 1950s. There's a tube amp going through a speaker. And on top of that is a mic that was used when Bobby used to walk into a club somewhere. That was the PA system. You had that old mic and old tube amps and maybe a couple speakers. What ended up happening is that Walter would walk in just with a harmonica. He didn't carry an amp or any fancy stuff. And he'd cup the mic. Those old mics were built to distort them compared to what we have today. And he would cup it and he would blow into it. And it would get this big fat sound. And then he went into the studio and started doing that with amplifiers. Now, I could go on forever about this, but I think the most important things that he did was to change the whole style. He would listen to swing saxophone players, and he started to emulate all these kind of sounds that we didn't have before. And then he started playing the tongue block style where you play out of both sides of it goes on and on. I wouldn't want to get too involved. When I give you the next example, it's going to be on a chromatic harmonica. And he pretty much brought that to the table and to put it on some of the first recordings of playing this instrument. That is the harmonica with a button on it. When you push the button in, you get the black keys on the piano. You didn't bend the notes on that like you do all the other ones. You played it, when you wanted those notes, you had to go for a button on it. So he was one of the first guys to use that. I better stop now because there's so much.
Well, the other thing is what I want to ask you two, Ben and Bob, what does Little Walter bring from growing up in Louisiana to Chicago and then to the world, really?
Yeah.
How do you hear of Louisiana and how does he bring Louisiana stuff to Chicago?
Well, I think what Johnny said there, the expansion of tones and textures is incredible. He just broadened the vocabulary of the harp. Right?
In his early years, when he was 13 years old, he was playing on the street in front of a lot of the bars down in the corner here, where he was listening to trumpet players, and he absorbed all this stuff before he even left here. And if you talk to different people, like Honey Boy Edwards said they got on a train together and hoboed all the way to Chicago and just playing. Honey Boy had a million stories. I don't know how many of them were true, but I love listening to them.
They were good ones.
And I think that was a big part of his Louisiana background, was living on the street, playing harmonica when he was a kid in front of bars in the corner.
But he did. He listened to horn players, no question about it. And, what he does essentially is he makes that instrument, particularly in Chicago blues, which was very, very influential with the Brits, as well as, early rock and roll. But he does the national anthem of harp players, Juke, the song Juke, which is a powerful song, and also gets him kicked out of Muddy Waters band. But in the end, it is an instrument that he perfected, not just the way he played it, but the sounds he got. He was a master of amplification and how he could basically just bring a whole new vocabulary of sounds to it, and everybody copied him. You had to. It was just too profound.
You had to. The best way to put it is before and after Little Walter.
Yeah, and I think that the fact that he's extreme right brain is really what it is. He's playing that harp upside down and backwards. He's left-handed.
That's right.
And that's the main thing. Right. Because people in the right-handed world are not used to hearing what comes from the far right side of thinking. They usually construct things. They have to be this way, and it's this way only. Otherwise, they don't accept it. But he knew how to play open and free from his right brain. That's the main thing that you're getting. You're getting someone who could do that and make you like it. You can't deny him, because he's going to make you like it, and it didn't matter if he had an amp or not. He could play in the open air. He did it with everything that he did, but he was definitely a genius in that way. But he's just giving you the right brain world that says throw all the rules and regulations and the BS out the window.
Right.
Let me add to that.
I'm going to show you where it's at.
And Bobby, you knew Little Walter,
You're so right. You're so right, man. I just want to add that Little Walter, I was living in Chicago with Little Walter. We both moved to Chicago pretty much the same time. I lived at 1220 Albany Avenue. He lived at 1222 Saints Avenue, which is a street over from Albany Avenue. I would throw a rock and hit his window in the morning, wake him up and say, Walter, you up? Yeah, I'm up. Walter was a great harp player and was a better thief than that. Let me show you what I'm talking about. I used to go, Bobby Reyes, what you got today? I said, next 2 or 3 weeks, you hit it on Muddy Water record. But he could copy it. He was a great harp player. That's okay. He was a better harp player than I could ever be. But he would take them licks. Goes like, Walter, how you do that? Next few weeks, he got it on a record. He would steal you dry. But that's good. It's all right. But he could beat you playing whatever you come up with. He'd ask me, what you got for me, Bobby Rush? I would say, next week he would have it down pat and doing more of it. Great cat. One of the greatest cats. Never will be any more like him. We all copied the things he did, but the things he did, he could beat all of us doing what we do, you know. Other than you, he better than Maya, but just right for you.
Ben, you had something. You wanted to say something?
Yeah, we're talking about how great Little Walter was, which he was. But I think one point is that Muddy Waters might not have broken out as big if not for Walter playing on his early records. Yeah.
I'm glad you said that because that's what made Muddy Waters. Nobody want to give him credit for that, but the harmonica player made Muddy Waters. Not everything, but give him that sound.
Yeah, call and response.
That's right. That sound.
Yeah. Let's hear some music. Bruce, you're gonna do a Little Walter tune.
Yeah. It won't be Walter.
The band who was not Little Walter.
My baby don't stand no cheating, my baby. Oh no, she don't stand no cheating, my baby. Oh no, she don't stand no cheating. Don't stand none of that midnight creeping, my baby. True little baby, she's my baby. My baby, I know she loves me, my baby. Oh yes, I know she loves me, my baby. Oh yes, I know she loves me. She don't do nothing but kiss and hug me, my baby. True little baby, she's my baby. Creeping, my baby, true little baby, she's my baby. My baby don't stand no fooling, my baby. Oh no, she don't stand no fooling, my baby. Oh no, she don't stand no fooling. When she get hot, there ain't no cooling, my baby. True little baby, she's my baby.
Bruce Sunpie Barnjo. All right, John, are you going to get up and do one more from Little Walter?
Yeah, I was going to give you an example of this is a 1946 Shure microphone. This is what they used as an public address microphone. And I was going to use that, but I make these other microphones, and these guys liked it, sounded a bit better, so I'll try this one. What's this called, Matt? Medicine mic. Medicine mic. This is called the Sansonic prescription microphone. This is an example of one of the big hits that Walter had. The Rolling Stones actually put a record out by this one. This is some deep blues played by some deep, deep musicians. Two. Lonesome, yeah. People as a man can be. I'm blue and lonesome, yeah. As a man can be. I'm not worried over myself. You know my love's been taken away from me. Baby, please. Baby, please be sweet to me. Baby, please. Baby, please be sweet to me. I got so many troubles. You know my heart's in misery.
over me.
Jumping Johnny Sansone, y'all. All right, well, we've spoken about Slim Harpo, Lazy Lester, Little Walter. One more guy we got to talk about. We're lucky that he's sitting right there. Bobby Rush. So I guess the thing I want to ask you, we've touched on it and talked about it a bit, but how does growing up in Louisiana and hearing the music of Louisiana figure into your music, your harmonica playing, and your whole kind of way of going about it?
Everything I have in me came from Louisiana, from the peoples around Louisiana. My father, being especially in my life, was a harmonica player also. I thought he could really play as a kid, but I found out later he couldn't play that good, but to me, he was the best thing around me. And he was playing a little song, and being a preacher, he said, "Let me blow something for you, boy," talking to me. He said, "I used to play this song for your mama. In fact, I used to play this song when I was for a little girl that I knew. And I thought he was going to play about some other woman. I either play about my mother, a gospel song. I was looking for glory, glory, hallelujah, when I laid my burden down." That wasn't what my dad said. He said, "Me, my gal went to Chankapin hunting. She fell down and I saw something." I said, "Daddy." My daddy being a preacher, I wasn't looking for that from my daddy. I said, "Sing it again, Dad," when I wanted him to sing the next verse, because the first verse, she fell down, he saw something. I was about 8 years old. I couldn't ask him, "Daddy, what you see?" Because my mama was in the kitchen cooking. He went to sing it again. My mama said, "Me, don't sing that song to that boy." I said, "Sing it again, Daddy." He said, "Me and my gal went to Chankapin hunting. She fell down and I saw something." I said, "Daddy, sing it again." By that time, I had my pencil and the paper. I figured if he couldn't say it, he could draw it. I said, "Sing it again, Dad." He went to sing it again. "Me and my gal went to Chankapin hunting." My mama was coming up behind. I said, "Shh, Daddy. How big was she?" He was about that wide, boy, 350 pounds. I said, "What she had on?" He said, "Nothing but a dress, and the wind was blowing." He went to sing it again. He said, "Me and my gal went to Chankapin hunting." I said, "Daddy, Daddy, here come my mama." He didn't care about it or act like he didn't care. He said, "Me and my gal went to Chankapin hunting. She fell down, and I kept running." So from Louisiana to today, I don't know what the song would have been, but I always take it in my heart. I know what he meant because I can just see it right now. From Louisiana, this has been the greatest thing of my life, being from Louisiana and getting welcomed back to Louisiana men and women who understand the music of Louisiana. Not because I do it, it's because it's good. And my thing is, I'm good at what I do. You may not like Bobby Rush. All you can say, "I don't like him, but damn, he good." Louisiana is where I'm from, and I'm proud of you, proud of Louisiana, proud of where I come from, and thank God for people like Lil Walter and all the guys from my area, and all of you for being so kind to me and invite me here to talk to you about Louisiana men's, and I'm one of them. Thank you so much.
Bobby, were there any other musicians we haven't talked about, or ones we wouldn't expect who influenced the way you play?
Oh, Muddy Waters and Howlin' Wolf, B.B. King, and all the guys in front of me. Because when I went to Chicago in 1951, Muddy Waters was real old. He was like 29 years old.
Wow. That's old.
That's old, you know. And Chuck Berry and all the guys like that was really old. Coming from Louisiana, they would expect me to play some some Louisiana boogie woogie, but I had my harmonica. I was. Little Walter was sitting in the corner, and he could play better than all of us. But I impressed him when I said, Louisiana. Louisiana.
Now, we would love it if you would get up and play one song with the band. Can you do that?
If I can do it right here, can I do
Yeah,
it?
you good? You guys good with that?
Yeah, if you want to
Okay.
keep it real low for me, because it's same song, but we're going to do it kind of low. I'm going to stand in front of you for a minute. Hey, pretty mama, I can't ride in your automobile. I'm looking at you, mama. I can't ride in your automobile. You got a cute little car, but you got too many drivers at your wheel. You got a man doing you like this, one doing you like that, three when you like this, and four when you like this. Hey, mama, I can't ride in your automobile. Girl, you got a cute little car, but you got too many drivers at your wheel. That's what you call it here. I love you guys. Thank y'all so much. Let me. Oh, I love you. You're a bad man. I want to tell you this before I leave you, if you don't mind. This has been the greatest thing of my life. At my age and time, I was thinking that this was so good, I forgot my age. I think I'm 49. You shut up. For my host, thank you so much. For all my guests, my friends, thank you so much. my better half, Miss Lowe. And all of you make up this audience. Thank you so much for inviting me. I love you, and you can't do shit about it.
That shit intentional. I know what the hell I'm doing. They thought I was lost.
Bobby Rush, y'all. Bobby Rush.
Everybody, I just want to say one thing. I think we can all agree that right here, what we have in Louisiana is worth preserving. We just saw an education, right, from the masters, and we heard about how they were educated. That's what we're trying to do, to preserve and educate so that we can inspire. There was a 15-year-old boy in the back row tapping his foot and nodding his head. He was on stage earlier. Who knows what's going to come out of him as a result of this, or any of the other people on the stage, or any of you all as a result of what happened today. And that's why we're doing this. Thank you for being here.